We love our pets like little people in furry suits. At least that's the way I am about mine. But you know, if we're going to get the calm behavior we want out of them, we need to speak their language, and that includes predictability. You know, if you've ever had an anxious dog, and there are a lot of people struggling with that right now, a reliable structure really, really matters. So, I think you can be the leader, because actually you're smarter than your dog, believe it or not. In case we haven't met, I'm veterinarian Dr. Jeff Nickel. This is our family border collie, Miss America. And this is Gaston, the fuzzy white guy, and this is Tony. And I'm here to try to share some important information, research-based. And I think it comes at a good time. I mean, have you ever had a dog who's just wigged out? Put that in the comment line if you would, and tell me a little bit about it, because you can interrupt me anytime to ask questions. It doesn't have to be about the subject we're discussing tonight, anything about pets. I want to make sure that we try to get through these tough times. I mean, geez, we've got coronavirus, we've got stock market. I mean, think about well, maybe you shouldn't think about your retirement portfolio. It'll all come back. In fact, let me share you something that came across the news this afternoon. They called it breaking news. Oh, Cindy, hey, hello, thank you for coming. Breaking news from the World Health Organization, the WHO. The World Health Organization has announced that dogs cannot contract COVID-19, coronavirus. Dogs previously held in quarantine can now be released. To be clear, who let the dogs out? See, I'm not the only one who uses humor sometimes to try to get through tough times. All right, so don't feel bad if you're feeling anxiety right now. I've had my moments too. And I know that our dogs don't understand this coronavirus thing and all that stuff, but we're their leaders, and they follow our emotional lead. People say, oh, my dog senses my feelings. No, they actually are watching our body signals just because they're dogs, and that's what they do in a canine social group, and they take their cues from us. Well, that doesn't need to put anybody on a guilt trip that, gee, if we don't set a good example, our dog's going to suffer. But what we can do is we can spend some extra time taking our dog for an extra walk each day, maybe spend some time just making a point to snuggle and just share some relaxation. And we get an immediate reinforcer back, and of course so does our dog. But we have a release of the hormone called oxytocin, often called the love hormone. And that physical contact, it really soothes the nerves and diminishes anxiety. But we're going to talk about something else right now. Has to do with canine leadership. Our dogs understand it. Miss America here, I give her a human name, and I treat her like my little daughter that I didn't have. We had 2 sons in our family. But yeah, she follows my lead whether I like it or not. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about a research study. This is in the Journal of Veterinary Behavior. Let me just show you this journal. Comes out monthly. You know, I read professional journals on general medicine, internal disease, but of course, because I'm a behaviorist and that's what I practice mostly anymore, then I get a lot of current research from this journal. And here is the paper I wanted to discuss with you. Oops, I'm tearing the pages out of the journal. Here we go. And this is it. It's called, can you see that? I hope you can see that. It's a preliminary study on the effects of attendance at dog training school on minimizing development of some anxiety disorders. So, there we go. Let me just read you a few passages here. Brief stuff, but I think that it really gets to the meat of this thing. And we're going to talk about it more, how you can apply this at home. The results of this study suggest that attending training school reduces some anxiety-related behaviors. That doesn't make it a treatment for anxiety, but it makes it a very powerful positive influence. In dogs, anxiety disorders can be caused by numerous factors, including separation, storms, specific people, or other events, and more generalized, ill-defined influences. Dogs with anxiety disorders can exhibit excessive barking, elimination in inappropriate places, destructive behavior, aggressive behavior, and self-harming behavior. Living with a dog exhibiting one or more of these behaviors can exert a heavy burden on the dog's owner and may ultimately cause the owner to relinquish or euthanize the dog. Now, that sounds mighty strong, but the truth is that behavior problems are the leading cause in death in dogs under 1 year of age. They end up going back to shelters, and maybe they're recycled through a couple more homes. And some of them, by that time, are so wigged out that they don't make good pets for anybody, and they get put down. So we don't take anxiety lightly. It is the biggest single cause of behavior disorders in dogs. And so a lot of ways of managing it. But here's some things that you can do that you might not be aware of. Best time to do this, of course, is when they're puppies, but you can do this anytime. It makes a difference. And I'll explain why in just a minute. So, in the present study, attending training school significantly decreased anxious behaviors. In another previous study, cortisol was released by 20% after training. Serum cortisol, that actually is measurable in the saliva, is often a measure of stress. It's not only done in dogs and cats, but in livestock as well, horses, pigs, cattle, having to do with housing and husbandry practices. Because cortisol release, one of the big stress hormones, is something that is picked up in the saliva in a matter of seconds after a stress occurs. So salivary cortisol measures are quite valuable, and we found that taking your dog to training reduces that stress hormone. So here's the last part of this study that I want to share with you. It is expected that attending training school decreases anxious behaviors by learning. Dogs can learn how to behave when they feel anxiety and or fear by training. For example, using highly motivating rewards such as food, social attention, that means petting and hugging and kissing, or toys to reward commands such as sit or stay. The commands can be used to settle and calm dogs when they feel anxiety and or fear, and they can behave appropriately. In that way, the dogs attending training school may learn appropriate behaviors when they feel anxiety and or fear. We recommend that owners take a proactive role in enrolling their dogs in training school. All right, so let me take that even a step further. Here's a study done by one of my colleagues, was a resident with me in behavior medicine, and she's board certified now. Here it is. In a recent study conducted by Dr. Meredith Stepita and colleagues surveyed 21 veterinary clinics that provided socialization classes for a total of 279 puppies. Each of the students was required to stay current on vaccinations. Nobody got sick. Many general practicing veterinarians are unaware of this. Many dog training schools are unaware of this, but you'll find leading edge veterinary hospitals that understand the importance of the window, and it's a pretty narrow window of time in the development of the young canine brain between ages 5 and 12 weeks, when those babies are open and amenable to taking in gentle, enjoyable handling with lots of different kinds of people, children, adults, elderly people, big people, small people, people hopefully of different races, different dogs, different ages, and learn that, almost all of these experiences are just excellent. And what you get as a result, and it is an indelible message on that brain that that dog will carry throughout its life, that I am not going to be afraid and freak out when I see an unfamiliar dog or a person in a new location where I've never been. We see this especially a problem when dogs are on leash walks. Some of them lunge and bark because they want to drive off the other dog or the other person. Visitors into a person's home, going to boarding kennels, veterinary clinics, dogs who did not get the exposure at that important window of time between 5 and 12 weeks, they're at a real disadvantage. And of course, they not only get socialization at that age, but also they start learning the basic obedience commands. So, Whether your dog went to puppy class at that age and they just need to keep their vaccinations current, or whether your dog missed it and your dog has anxiety issues, maybe it's in particular situations, or maybe your dog is just watching your body signaling carefully and you're feeling a bit jittery because, well, let's face it, there's a lot of uncertainty in our lives right now, isn't there? And I'm a little bit edgy personally. I'm having to work on myself and breathe from the tummy. And so I'm spending more time with my family and my pets. Here's what you can do, even if your dog doesn't understand obedience commands, is that you can teach your dog simple stuff like come or sit or down. And when your dog does it, you reward immediately. Food is a wonderful reinforcer, but so is petting. In fact, another study showed that petting was a more potent reinforcer for food, including from people a dog doesn't even know, okay? So, petting, verbal reinforcement, food, and teach your dog that he or she can earn resources. So how come that works? Well, many people say, you know, this particular dog is a wonderful dog because she just wants to please me. Yeah, they love us without question. They certainly belong with us. They are domestic pets. But we're overlooking an essential component of what a dog is. A dog, highly social creature, and in the wild they are part of a social structure where the leader is tasked with trying to keep everybody alive through some pretty challenging times sometimes, droughts, times of very little food. They're also tasked with getting everybody in the group to pass on their genetic code. These are the two primary objectives, survival and passing on our genetic code to the next generation. Well, how does the leader do that? Well, they've got a lot of methods, but the principal one, called differential reinforcement, means that behaviors that the leader likes get reinforced, and the behaviors that the leader does not like get ignored. Not reprimanded, not punished with, you know, water sprays, a swat, an electric shock, good knows, whatever people are doing. They simply ignore the behavior they don't want, and the canine leaders do this because their subordinates, the other dogs, are genetically programmed to believe and understand that stuff because they're dogs. It's wired right into their brains. So when a leader sees a behavior that she likes, she reinforces it. And so with your dog, what you can do is ask your dog to earn all of her resources. That's what dogs do. The only things they're entitled to is air to breathe and water to drink. And many behaviorists use the term, nothing in life is free. I don't use that term because there are two things that are. A dog can breathe and drink water without asking, mother, may I? But everything else has to be earned. And whether you're cognizant or consciously aware of it, that's what your dog thinks you're doing. So if your dog wants to eat dinner, you put the bowl on the floor and you require him to sit for just a couple of minutes. I shouldn't say a couple of minutes, more like 5 seconds, okay? And your dog watches you, and when you say the release word, for most of us it's okay, could be bologna sandwich, I don't care, whatever, as long as you're consistent. And you give your dog the release to have the privilege of eating. Your dog does not see food as a right or an entitlement. We think of our dogs that way because we love them as though they were our children, and that's good, but they actually see themselves as dogs and us as their canine leaders. So going through times of anxiety and uncertainty, your dog needs you to speak the canine leadership language of predictability. In other words, this dog will always earn her privileges, always earn her resources, and they're happy to do that because they get to look to us, their leader, and get their needs met, but they have to earn it. So a simple obedience command like sit her down, or roll over, or give me 5, or shake hands, or jump through the hula hoop, whatever you want your dog to do, whatever your dog gets, whether it's a kind word, a pat on the head, allowed to go outside, come in, eat dinner, get in a car. I mean, your dog sees all of those things as privileges, and you can have fun with your dog by having him earn that stuff simply by performing a command first. Well, the beauty of this is that it is so reliable and predictable to your dog, and you don't have to teach your dog this concept because the idea of earning all resources is part of who they are. So we do this, they feel better, and by extension, so do we. And you know what? If we do the same thing with other people we meet, keep an eye on the people around you. A lot of people are suffering and struggling. And if you wait and give them an opportunity to do whatever, and you somehow show your appreciation, just a smile is often enough, people come away feeling validated, and they earned that. In fact, it is essential to us humans to earn friendships. We know innately, at least most of us do, that if we want somebody to become a friend, we have to be a friend first, right? And so if we find something about them that will allow them to earn a smile from us, they do something courteous, a smile, a thank you, and people come away feeling validated. And the giver of that thanks comes away feeling a lot better too. So what we're talking about here with our dogs earning their resources, or people earning just a nod, a smile, a thanks, everybody comes away feeling better. And that can spread to everybody else that those other people come in contact with. It's a great way to try to get through difficult times. I wanted to read you something else. One of our national organizations, especially for veterinary behaviorists such as myself, is the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior, the AVSAB. And our organization has position statements. You can go to our website, avsab.org, and there are position statements on a variety of important behavior topics in dogs. Some really important stuff like breed-specific legislation, which in some communities or states they outlaw certain breeds. Doesn't work, doesn't even make sense. There's a position statement on punishment, on dominance. Well, here's the position statement on the subject we've been talking about, and I'll just read you the essence of it. The primary and most important time for puppy socialization is the first 3 months of life. During this time, puppies should be exposed to as many new people, animals, and stimuli and environments as can be achieved safely and without causing overstimulation that might be manifested as excessive fear or withdrawal or avoidance. If you see your puppy start to, oh my goodness, that's too much for me, well, take that puppy out of that situation. You say, well, hey, I need to socialize this youngster. Yes, you do, but you want to make it something the puppy can handle and enjoy. You want your puppy to see other people and other dogs as fun, not as like, oh my goodness, I was overwhelmed when I was a kid. Okay? So you want to do this without overstimulation. For this reason, the American Veterinary Society of Animal Behavior believes that it should be the standard of care for puppies to receive socialization before they're fully vaccinated. We have research to back this up. We understand how vaccinations work. So get that puppy socialized and start training early. But if you miss that window, it's okay. There are adult training classes, and if your puppy or your adult dog wigs out there, you can learn how to get simple training on the internet. And if you put your email address into the comment line of this Facebook Live, even after this Facebook Live, I will send you some great information on teaching basic commands. The essence of it is to have fun, but it's also a wonderful tool for teaching your dog what to do when they might otherwise be anxious. Because if your dog really understands this stuff, and you're in an anxiety-provoking situation, and you give your dog a simple command like sit her down, and your dog does that, looks to its leader, and earns these things in the face of something that might be a little bit nerve-wracking, and earns a reinforcer, you made it easy for your dog to succeed. You've treated its anxiety with a canine-specific method. Leadership, earning resources. Your dog comes away going, thanks. Okay? You feel better too, and your dog doesn't embarrass you quite as often. So I hope that's helpful. So I think that if you use, thank you for those hearts, and I'm glad this is helpful. If you use canine leadership, then you can bring out your dog's inner dog. You'd be amazed the number of people, and we've probably all made this mistake, who we don't recognize the difference between this species and ours, and so we end up trying to require them to think and behave like little people because, well, we love them that way, don't we? Well, the truth is that there's a lot about them that is similar to us humans, but then there are other things that are actually pretty darn different. So bring out your dog's inner dog, treat him or her like a dog, require her to earn resources, which is just about everything except air and water, and your dog says, I get it. I know what you're doing. That's canine leadership. Hey, I'll work with that. And they feel better. And in times of a real tough, anxious period like this, maybe you will too. So I hope you found this valuable. You're welcome to share this Facebook Live with any of your pet-loving friends. I do these things essentially every week, Thursday evening, 6 o'clock Mountain Time, because I'm trying to bring out the best in pets and their people. And we can do that. And your suggestions for these kinds of Facebook Lives, your questions, so valuable. In fact, I really appreciate the questions because many times I can use those in my weekly newspaper column in the Albuquerque Journal. And every week I put that, I call it a media blog when it's not in the newspaper. I put it on my website along with the Facebook Live video from the week before. And you can get those every week right in your email box on Tuesday mornings. You just have to go to my website, which is drjeffnicol.com, drjeff, Nichol, no S on my name, drjeffnicol.com. And you can subscribe. Just go to the bottom of the page, and you can subscribe at no cost. And every week you'll get my Facebook Live and my media blog. You don't even have to go looking for it. And by the way, when you do subscribe, you'll get at no charge my CPR guide and first aid for pets. And you can print that stuff out, stick it to the fridge, and it's handy and useful in case something goes sideways with one of your pets, cats or dogs. So thanks for tuning in. I appreciate you being here with me. I'm Dr. Jeff Nicol, along with Miss America, our family border collie. And Tony and Gaston have camped out on the floor. They're sitting there like a couple of chickens brooding eggs. I think all the treats that Carolyn tossed on the table to keep them in the frame of the camera, they've eaten them all, so now they're just resting. And that's all right too. So thank you again for tuning in. And everybody take a few deep breaths and spend more time with your pets and hug and kiss them and snuggle and go for extra walks and practice some fun obedience. Thanks again. I'm Dr. Jeff Nicol.